Welcome back, guys, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our last week review of the season before playoffs of the regular season, that is, week 21. This was a week of only 3 games, none of them really meaning anything. And that was kind of the whole narrative of most of this. And so it kind of went, actually, I think I went 3 for 3 this week in my predictions. Which means that Rick is very, very frustrated that I did not pick his team to win this week. But I'm sorry. I don't know. I just didn't. It was one of those things where it's like, the game didn't matter to anyone, but it was in Montreal. So if anything, Montreal maybe had a little bit to hope to win at home. But it is what it is. Anyways, we'll get into the first one, which was Winnipeg defeating the not Saskatchewan. No, not Saskatchewan. As great as that was, not defeating Saskatchewan. Defeating the Calgary Stampeders by a score of 36-13. Bombers putting up points consistently and then really bringing it in the fourth quarter. A excellent game for Castillo, though. Seriously, Sergio Castillo, this was his night, and a great night to have, as he sets a new club record for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with a 90.2 percentage this year, kicking field goals. Fantastic job. He hit a 51-yarder, a 23-yarder, a 30-yarder, a 42-yarder, as well as another 40-yarder, and he hit all the converts. So, great game for Sergio Castillo, which is why you should check out my Bomber video on this, which I called Castillo Royale, because I thought that was clever as a James Bond fan myself. But overall, I mean, I know you didn't watch this game, Rick, but from kind of what you see, what valuable insight do you have?
I just find it hilarious that you guys have just as many rushers as you guys have receivers receiving balls this week.
Yeah, no, we were kind of all over the place. And it's funny because actually with this game, I'm not gonna lie. I think there was a little bit of dick riding for Drew Brown. I think people need to calm the fuck down a little bit. but Drew Brown has played very well. He absolutely has. However, the amount of times I've seen he's a top 4 quarterback in the league, I'm like, get the fuck out. Let's calm it down. Let's calm it down. He has done a great job. He absolutely has. And Drew Brown has set a new CFL record for the most touchdown passes in a single season with 0 interceptions. Drew Brown, if I'm Drew Brown, I'm thinking about going somewhere else. Not because Winnipeg is not a great place to play. It absolutely is. But a guy of Drew Brown's talents is capable of a starting position somewhere. Not going to lie. If I'm Ottawa, I'm making some fucking phone calls. Absolutely. To try to get a guy like Drew Brown on your team as I think he's got a lot more promise than Dustin Crum does. And he showed that in this game. And Dakota Prukop, we tried to have him throwing a little bit. He would make 8 attempts, only go 4 for 8. Including one where we try a fake on short yardage. Didn't work out, but this is a good time to try that, just to kind of experiment, see if in any desperation come playoffs you can pull something like that off. But overall, in short yardage, Prukop was exactly what the Bombers needed him to be, and he was able to get those yards. So
I was going to say, or maybe he ends up somewhere out west that I'm not going to name the team because I know how you feel, but that would be certainly interesting too.
Well, I don't even think the problem is necessarily quarterbacks because everyone was injured this year. It's like we didn't really get that much of Trevor Harris. If we think about it, the majority of the season was played by their third string quarterback. And so it's one of those things where if I'm Saskatchewan, in terms of panicking, I don't think quarterback is where you start chopping off heads, because it's like you're playing a third string the whole year. I actually think that Saskatchewan has a really solid receiving core. I think those other parts of the team, getting that offensive line down, getting that defense down is going to be more key, and making sure you hold on to a guy like Mario Alford. I think Saskatchewan has pieces, but they just need to make some adjustments, and then maybe they might be able to start winning some games. And they need to have fucking clutch, because losing like 6 in a row is pathetic. And you know what? It's not even just me. They'll be the first ones to tell you that. Oh, by the way, before I get any further, because I just remembered it, big thank you to Rick here, as well as Gordon White of the Hamilton Ticats for this signed Gordon White jersey. So thank you, Rick, for getting this all arranged and getting it sent out. And thank you for Gordon White for being such a good sport and giving that fucking signature on it. Very much appreciate it.
And not only that, people may think that I'm assholes, but I went out there at 7 o'clock in the morning to meet Gordon White at 7:30 to get this guy an autograph. That is
I appreciate your dedication. Well, no, he was okay about that. We coordinated this with him. We didn't just be like, hey, you know that like early morning coffee you wanted? Sign this instead. That was not how that went. That was not how that went. He was
I ran into our special teams coach at the same time, so it was well worth it.
There you go. And he's gonna be like, "Were you the guy that was fucking shouting down what's his name? One of those guys." I'm kidding. Anyways, no. But thank you so much, Gordon White, for that fucking absolute champ, for that beauty, friend of the channel. Great. If you haven't, check out that interview with Gordon White. I actually think that might be our best interview we've had yet. It was just awesome. So please check that out. Have to have him on again sometime. But speaking of the Hamilton Ticats, they would sadly lose 22-20 to the Montreal Alouettes in the Battle of Meaningless Games this week, where they would be able to put up points in every quarter of this game that actually win the second and third quarter over Montreal. But a strong fourth quarter by the Alouettes and a good start for the Alouettes is what would kind of lead them to this win. And overall, it's one of those things where the thing I said was very important for Hamilton and for Montreal as well was to not show their hand too much. And both teams did a pretty decent job at this. So Bo Levi Mitchell would go 5 for 10. Not what you're hoping for from Bo Levi Mitchell. You're expecting a lot better than that. But I think, again, the big piece for Hamilton that I think is kind of that kind of jack of all trades at the quarterback position is Matthew Schultz, with the way that he's able to get a solid percentage passing. And as we saw in that game against Saskatchewan, he can run the ball when needed. And he absolutely can. And they didn't have him touch the field. I thought that was a great move. Taylor Powell playing the majority of this game for the Ticats. For the Alouettes, they'd show their hand a little bit more with Cody Fajardo leading the passing game. But what have we learned? We've learned that Alexander and Evans, if they have to resort to them in the middle in this coming game, oh boy, are they in trouble if something happens to Fajardo and they have to resort to them. So, I'd
like to point out one thing.
Yep.
How about that Kevin McAllister 122-yard field goal return for 122 for the touchdown?
Oh, there you go.
A.K.A. Tyreek McAllister.
Yeah, no, he had an excellent game. Kick returning, he was great. Averaged at least 26.3 in that regard. Receiving, strongest receiver for the Ticats. This was a very low scoring game when it comes to the stat side of things. If we're looking rushing, Hamilton, the most they rushed it, I have it here for 3 yards. Is that accurate on yours?
So you're actually missing Sean Thomas Ellington's 12 carries for 80 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, I was about to say, because that can't be right, because this one was missing that, strangely enough. I got Terry Godwin here for leading the charge on the receiving side of things for 56. Only on 3 receptions. Only on 3 receptions though, which is noticeable because 56 doesn't sound that great. But then when you think he only got thrown to 3 times, that's actually pretty damn good, averaging at least a first down on those throws. On the other side of it, for the Alouettes, Speaker would be leading it with 44 yards only, 6 receptions. So this was just a game where really both teams were not doing much, and I think that's pretty much exactly the way they should go about it. If there's any point of concern, I think it's absolutely for the Montreal Alouettes at kicking. Cote would go 2 for 4, not what you're hoping for, and especially if it's going to be a close down to the wire kind of game, kind of like this one was, even though it was just backups versus backups. If it's going to be anything like that, come this next game, that's going to be a real concern for the Alouettes. Is there anything else you got for this game? It's not really that much. It's just kind of...
I mean, considering that other than Powell, all the Montreal quarterbacks had under 60 yards passing.
Yeah.
Like, out of all games that was played this weekend, this was the biggest snooze fest.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then our last game of the week is going to be the Toronto Argonauts defeating the Ottawa Redblacks in Ottawa by a score of 27-22. So very strong first quarter here for the Toronto Argonauts. They put up 14-0. Then they would lose the second quarter 6-0 to Ottawa. And then they'd have a solid third quarter. Ottawa would actually come back a bit in the fourth quarter here with 13 points, but just kind of a bit of a very much a case of too little too late. It was nice to see, though, on the Red Black side of things, they had Michael Damagala, who was kicking, who is a friend of Gordon White. We have had chats with him. We got to have Damagala on sometime. He's an absolute legend. Longest being a 46-yard field goal. So having him kick field goals today, he was 3 for 3. So I think if you're the Ottawa Red Blacks, you seriously consider, maybe giving this guy a push in the kicking department, as he was absolute money this game. For the Red Blacks, Dustin Crum would have a solid game. He would go 22 for 35, so not overly terrible. He would go 273 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, so even ratio, so not too bad. Cameron Dukes, he would go 317 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interception, not the TD interception ratio that you hope for. But Cameron Dukes is not a bad option by any means. Just one of those things where he's not he's not Chad Kelly, obviously. He's not going to be leading the charge in the way that Chad Kelly has. I think that Toronto did a good job getting a bit out of some other receivers. It absolutely hurts to see the name Carlton Agadosi under Toronto Argonauts. That hurts me because I really loved him as a backup, but he deserves better than a backup. He totally does. So I think it would be smart if the Argonauts decided to really give him, a bit more usage. He did good with what he got. Unger III was leading the charge with 88 yards receiving. Rushing was Cameron Dukes with 39. Overall, I don't think there was really that much to talk about in this game. It was one of those things where Ottawa hoping to scrap a win at home. Toronto, play your backup, see what happens. Maybe you tie the CFL record for most wins in a season, and they do.
The only 2 things that I was going to mention was Justin Hardy with 119 yards.
Oh yeah,
and Dustin Crum finally had 346 all-purpose yards with 2 touchdowns.
Oh, he had he had that many all-purpose because I saw he had two.
Well, because he had 273 passing and then 73 rushing.
Oh, there you go. Because I was talking just about his passing percentage. I didn't realize that he really was leading the charge rushing, which is good because Ottawa's kind of struggled in that department. So having a quarterback that's able to move is good. Ottawa struggled in a lot of departments, but I mean, it's good to at least see
comment.
It is what it is. But overall, Argonauts, they lock up that last win and get themselves that they tie the CFL record for most wins in a season with 16. And
with 16,
as they head into the playoffs, they obviously got the East locked up. Bombers got the West. We have our Eastern semifinal previews, coming soon. Also known as, it will be released probably a day after these. Me and Rick are going to record them right away, though. Make sure we get all that beautiful stuff ready. And for you people, hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. Make sure you guys join the Prairie Puck Podcast Discord down in the link in the description below. That's where we're talking about hockey. We're talking about football. We're talking about how Rick is an idiot sometimes. We're talking about how I'm an idiot all the time. And all the good discussion is happening down there, so make sure you guys join that. And without further ado, that's all I got. Is there anything else you have there, Rick?
No.
Make sure you guys comment down below what you guys thought of this week's games, and I'll see you guys next time.